Centralizing, buying time, killing people that's in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV. And it is, what do we got here? Thursday, August the 18th. And the takedown of our nations continues to speed up. Really disturbing stuff going on. I saw a thing and that's, it's a possibility that down stateside that I saw a thing on the Canadian news that Trump's other adversary in this election could be a third term by Obama. Now, we know he can't have a third term, but the president does have executive power. And because the president has executive power, he has the ability to do whatever to give himself a third term. You know, be it race riots, be it a bombing, be it terrorism, be it whatever. They do have the ability, because he is, after all, your king. And he's the king of the castle, and he might not want to come down after 2 terms. So, you know, if he doesn't come down, all hell's going to break loose, likely. Or the people have been stupefied enough, they're just going to go get the protest signs and stand there and whine and bitch and complain about it for whatever time it takes to finish destroying the nation. Over here, we have the takedown of our nation in Canada, and Ontario here, which used to be the breadbasket of Canada, is becoming the bread line of Canada. And we're going to have to put some brakes on this somehow. We have, where is that document that I found? We have a ridiculous problem with our electricity up here. Meanwhile, we're selling electricity to the United States. Well, actually, we're not selling it. We're paying for them to take it. And it's costing hundreds of millions of dollars to do so. Meanwhile, where did I put that? Meanwhile, here, where the heck did that thing get to? I think this might be it here. Yeah, here's a story here. Now, we used to have the cheapest or close to the cheapest electricity rates in all of North America. And the system was built that way so that we could get an advantage in manufacturing, because most manufacturing is use a lot of electricity. So our system was set up here to give benefit to the people, and in turn they were able to have higher wages, and it was good for everybody. Now this province has the highest debt of any state or province in North America. We have the highest electricity rates in North America. We have a manufacturing sector that is completely crippled. And through the Enron scam, we have a real problem on our hands here. More than 8% of Ontario households were in arrears with their electricity bills at the end of 2015, owing more than $172.5 million. The Ontario Energy Board reports 566,902 homes were in arrears last year, 263 fewer customers than were behind in their electricity bills at the end of 2014. The board says any account that is 30 days or more in arrears past the 16-day minimum payment period is considered to be in arrears. Ontario Hydro Networks, the electricity distribution arm of Ontario's giant transmission utility, was owed $105 million by 222,000 customers who are in arrears, which is up more than 1,750 households from 2014. Toronto Hydro had the second largest number of clients in arrears, with 60,500 households owing $13 million last year. The Ministry of Energy says there are about 4.6 million residential electricity customers or households in Ontario. This is bad news. We've never seen numbers like this before. Just recently, last year, I think it was, in this neck of the woods, 60,000 people had their hydro disconnected. There's a really pathetic story of an elderly couple who, and these people should basically be taken out back and shot for all intents and purposes. The OEB here is the board that sets the energy rates here in Ontario. The COO, Chief Operating Officer, was an Enron lobbyist who helped set up the scam. The board was set up in such a fashion that it's untouchable by the government that set it up. The government and the Ministry of Energy can make suggestions to the OEB, the Ontario Energy Board, but they can't tell it what to do. So these rogues are in charge of setting the rates. Now, this is really pathetic considering that we are producing so much electricity here in Ontario that we don't need, because we've crippled our manufacturing sector, which was part of the plan to drive the businesses offshore. And we're paying millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to unload this electricity. We're not getting paid for it, we're unloading it, and we're having to pay to get somebody to take it. In the meantime, here's a couple, and these stories are they're coming up everywhere. And the headline is they're feeling powerless. Prescott, Ontario. For 7 years, David and Linda Thomas were living their retirement dream in an attractive home with views of the St. Lawrence River. But the fabric of the couple's dream began to tear in 2015. By the end of June this year, it was in tatters. The retired couple on Windmill Road, that's ironic, east of Prescott, has been fighting a losing battle with Hydro One over a bill when they refused to pay, the jump from what they believed were adequate billing plan payments up to 2015 and to almost $8,000 on their last statement. We've been living in this heat wave without electricity, said Linda on Tuesday. Linda was home alone on July 11th when she said Ontario Hydro One delivered their last statement, a disconnection letter, and cut the electricity to the home, placing a lock on a smart meter. Up till Tuesday, the only explanation the Thomases have said they received from Hydro One was that they were not being charged enough on their billing plan. I was paying $278 a month, monthly, year in and year out, and they came along and said that our old billing system was bad. And we were looking into it, and we weren't charging you enough. While the shock of the first large bill was devastating, the following months would be worse. So the first bill came in at over $2,000, and then right away at over $3,000. Then from $3,000 and something, it jumped to $5,000 and something, said Linda. The last Hydro One statement with a reading taken 8 days after the power was cut off clearly shows a budget billing plan credit of $264.96, which adequately covers the total cost of the $179.52 for 27 kilowatt hours used for this stated period. About average when examining the history on the other side of the statement. The bill includes a $65 disconnection charge with HST, which is 13% for Americans or other listeners, on top of that. To add fuel to the fire, said Linda, Hydro One had an employee visit the home this past month, ostensibly to read the smart meter. Why would they do that when our hydro has been disconnected since July the 11th, said Linda. When contacted on Wednesday, a Hydro One spokesman said the company could not discuss details of the bill without the approval of the customer. Complaints about Ontario Hydro One, rate increases and billing constitute the highest volume of calls to Leeds Greenville MPP Steve Clark's constituency office. Clark, long an advocate for change within the provincial utility, said Wednesday Hydro One needs to adjust its culture of response to customer. We've been still pledging to the government that things need to change, he said. They need to change their approach. There is a wrong culture that continues to exist in Hydro One. It's not just at Hydro One, okay? It is the entire electricity grid in Ontario, the entire thing. Everybody in this province is being bastardized. This MPP, like all clowns, is saying that they need to change their culture. No, we need to eliminate the fraud that set up the culture. Okay? This was fraud from the get-go. This was a constructed fraud through Enron to bastardize our electricity system in order to destroy the province. And who was brought in to reconfigure Ontario Hydro? Maurice Strong. And what Maurice Strong said, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized countries collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to help bring that about? And this freaking MPP says the Hydro One needs to change its culture. No, the MPP needs to be put in stocks in the public square. Or maybe sent to China, I don't know. These people all know what the hell's going on. Unfortunately, most of the public are still blind to what's going on. We try to get information to them so that they can wise up to what the hell's going on. So he goes on. Clark said he's hopeful the new ombudsman for Hydro One, Fiona Crean, will help clean up the persistent file of complaints from his constituents. Well, the ombudsman doesn't have any teeth. Okay? The ombudsman's just somewhere you can go to complain to. The ombudsman has no power. if the premier of the province and the minister of energy can't tell the OEB what to do, which sets the rates of which Ontario Hydro One charges, if those two people can't tell OEB what to do, you can bet your bottom dollar that the ombudsman has no power. This is just to make people feel better as they're being cut off the grid. I continue. Well, let's see, where do we go here? This is the ombudsman speaking now. We do have a number of constituents that come here almost on a daily basis with issues with hydro, said Clark. I still get a lot of customer service and metering complaints that I used to get. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to. I continue to be upset with hydro with this culture. See, it's always a culture. That's what the MPUP was saying as well. And lack of responsiveness on constituent problems when they appear to have a very legitimate complaint. Hydro One, a complaint against Hydro with a bill that just doesn't make sense. The Thomases have had a string of bad luck with health, and in January 2015 had to absorb the cost of replacing a furnace. That was more than $5,000. Our savings have been depleted. Things have been really bad, said Linda. It's been really, really rough on us for the past year, added David, who is still recovering from a broken neck he suffered in 2015 and now faces the prospect of dealing with cancer. Both husband and wife get emotional and talking about having to give up their home because they can't afford to pay the $8,000 Hydro One claims they owe. And on principle, can't pay either. Small pink sticky notes marked furniture in their home the couple wants to try and keep. The house and the rest of the furnishings are up for auction. This is a beautiful home and we hate to leave it, but we have no choice, said David. David, 79, has been hauling water 3 or 4 times a day in the recent heat wave from a gracious neighbor next door, and some of the comforts of a normal home have been forsaken. We're cooking on a barbecue as much as we can, or eating salad, said Linda. We're using flashlights at night. The emotion of their situation now into their 5th week without power and the frustration of trying to get a reasonable explanation for the inordinate increases through telephone calls have taken their toll. All you get is the runaround, said David. You get so fed up you just want to hang up on them. And that's what they want you to do, David. They want you to hang up. They want you to sell your house. They want to harm you. These are vicious frickin' criminals. Now, like I said, we are paying to dump hydro. There's so much electricity in this province that's being produced, don't know what to do with the stuff. Now, because we're producing so much, the price ought to be coming down. They ought to be encouraging people to use more of this electricity they're producing at low rates. No, that's not what they're doing. They keep jacking the rate up, and there's all kinds of these dumbass stories. In the long run, these people don't owe $8,000. They know it. Hydro One knows it. The Ministry of Energy knows it. The Premier of the province knows it. The Ombudsman knows it. The MPP knows it. But here's a couple 79 frickin' years old in Ontario, Canada, having to put up their house for auction. At 79 years old, you've got these people for the last 5 weeks with no hydro. It's been extremely warm, and that wasn't from climate change. It's just a warm spell that we get every year in the summer. Having to haul water 4 or 5 times a day from the neighbor, wandering around in the dark with flashlights, eating salads because they got no way to cook other than a barbecue. And you call this a great nation? This is turned into a complete banana republic on purpose. The people are being hurt. The people are being harmed. And it's just going to get worse. Because next on the block is our water. And they're going to do the same thing with the water because we've got the documents. They're going to force people to use less and less and less water. How? By ever increasing the price of the water. We've seen what happened in Flint, Michigan. We know what they did in Bolivia. People started trying to collect rainwater. And I forget the name of the company now that had the Bolivian water rights, which they got because Bolivia got in so much debt because the IMF, World Bank indebted them. And then said, well, you know, we need something. If you sold the waterworks, then we could put that against the debt. And that's what they did. And then the people were losing their houses because they couldn't afford the water bills. The water company was foreclosing on homes for water bills. And then the people started collecting water, the rainwater. Bechtel, that was the name of the company. And then Bechtel goes to the government and said, no. We have control of all of in Bolivia. And that includes the water that falls out of the sky. So then they brought their thugs in to try to stop people from collecting rainwater. Now, we ever see this in the United States and that, where people are being fined for collecting rainwater or digging a pond on their property and so on and so forth. They test all this stuff before they bring it to the West. They test it in small African countries. They test it in South America. And when they think they got their template right, they bring it in and dump it on us. And we cannot put up with it. At least the Bolivians finally had enough and stood up. Now I'm waiting for my people to have had enough and stand up. If you think you got problems with your hydro bills, you ain't seen nothing yet because they're coming after your water. I live in rural Ontario and I've seen the French water trucks wandering around out in the countryside. The people here are told that they have to upgrade their water system and their sewage systems at great expense. Nothing wrong with the damn things, but they're upgrading them because the new buyers want state-of-the-art, want us to pay for it, and then our governments, our so-called governments, are going to, just like they always sell it for pennies on the dollar, and with the caveat that the private business will be better at running this thing. We saw that happen in Britain. We've seen it happen all over the place. We are being invaded by offshore corporations taking over our utilities. We're being invaded by migrants. These are the migrants that were purposely bombed in order to create the migrants, in order to come in here and start short shifting in this Sharia law shit, in order to get these migrants into our government positions. And now we are about to be inundated with Chinese. And that's a fact. Here come the Chinese. They're next. They're the next ones that are going to come in here. Now, if I can find that again, we can talk about the Chinese for a minute. This is absolutely ludicrous. And at some point, the people are going to have to wake up and stand up. Now, a few years back, and they're still doing it, but a few years ago it was rampant. They were sending local municipal mayors to China. Now, what in the hell is a local municipal mayor going to China for? Okay? Now, Power Corp and the Rockefellers and the boys set this deal up. They were the ones that instigated the no child, one child, two child max that was propagated through the media years ago. The idea of a kid was very negative because it's going to cost you, $80 gazillion by the time the kid hits 18, and you could spend your money better A kid's going to be tough on your lifestyle, all this kind of stuff. It was just hammered. And now they're turning around and they're saying we don't have enough people to replace the old people, so we have to bring in immigrants. Now, this is different than the migrants. The migrants are being brought in for a different reason. They're in here to really start causing chaos with the idea of Sharia law and bombings and all the rest of this shit. The Chinese, on the other hand, are coming in here and they're going to set up plants on our lands, and they're going to pay Chinese wages. That way they don't have to send the raw materials to the factories they stole from us or our government sent overseas by making it impossible for the industries to survive. So the Chinese are going to come over here and they're going to get land. As they're running you off the rural areas, they're going to start setting up factories on your lands, and so that they don't have to ship the material all the way over to China to have it manufactured. And they're going to have the deal where they can pay the wages. This is all through the international agreements. They don't have to pay the wages. They will saw off pieces of ground, so they will be actually the nation of China within our nation, and they will have to only abide by the Chinese rules, not our rules. And they'll sell it to you on the idea that it's good for everybody because by doing so, you can have your trinkets for less cost. And people keep buying this garbage. I don't get that. I mean, can nobody think logically anymore? Anyways, Canada, the corporation, aims to spread the Chinese immigrants across the country. The problem? An aging Canadian population needs more young blood to propel the economy, especially outside the big cities. And that's why the local rural mayors were being sent to China. Canada's immigration minister says it appears the country needs more newcomers. Now, this guy's a complete piss tank. He's an ex-banker, but he's definitely a piss tank. This guy's probably been drunk since he was 21 years old. A complete waste of skin, but he's in charge of immigration. So it appears the country needs more newcomers, but as housing prices skyrocket in Vancouver and Toronto, his government hopes to lure them elsewhere. John, I'm still pissed, McCollum, recently returned from a trip to China, where he lobbied officials to double or even triple the number of visa application centers in the country in an effort to open more doors for Chinese students, workers, and tourists. He's also conducting a series, I already did this story on another show, he's also conducting a series of consultations across Canada, speaking after a roundtable of experts and business leaders in Vancouver. He said he's hearing that the aging population means more young blood is needed to propel the economy, especially outside the big cities. We would like to spread the immigrants across the country evenly. The last thing we want is that every immigrant either goes to Toronto or Vancouver, he said. The immigration minister's trip to Beijing comes just before the Prime Minister, I'm so gay and I love pride parades, Justin Trudeau, is set to travel to China for the G20 summit in September. McCollum said the government has not yet made a decision on how many immigrants it will propose for 2017. It will announce a number in September along with the figures for 2018 and 2019. He said Canada was able to settle Syrian refugees across the country, including in the Maritimes and the Prairies. He also pointed to a pilot program to attract newcomers to Atlantic Canada, where he said the need was desperate. Now, most of the people have been driven out of Atlantic Canada because they shut down all the jobs. Now they're going to fill it up with Chinese. I don't know what it's going to take for the people to say, okay, that's it. We've had enough. We're going to have some public hangings here now because this is past palatable for anybody. I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't know. we have been screwed with for so long. And it's sad because back in the 70s, I told people we do not have a democracy here. We have a benevolent dictatorship. We don't have the checks and balances that are required to make sure these shitheads don't do something really stupid. And but it's not. It is a benevolent dictatorship. Once a party is, and it's the same thing in the States now. I mean, you got that executive order, you got a king, you got a dictator. And if they're benevolent, which they were way back, as they suckered people in and made them docile, the government's here to help you. Here's some benefits. Here's this. Here's that. Right? And it made people docile. But I said the day is going to come when your benevolent dictator is going to turn on you and you won't be prepared to deal with it. That's where we are today. That's exactly where we are today. And the people are struggling because they are completely convinced that they live in the best country on the planet and nothing bad could happen here in Canada. And we're the peacekeepers, and ooh, look at America, they're the war machine. We're the peacekeepers. I mean, the propaganda that's been jammed down people's faces up here is atrocious. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. And your democracy has turned into a demonocracy, and your benevolent dictator has turned into tyranny on steroids. And the people don't know what to do. And that's sad. It's damn sad. We have people like the couple I was telling you about who can't pay their hydro bills and at 79 years old have to put their house up for auction. It reminds me of the stories in the United States. People work their freaking whole lives, trying to get the American dream, and then they get older and they retire, and one of them gets cancer or something. Next thing you know, they're in bankruptcy land. They're sick and they're bankrupted. Did the government come to their aid like the government is supposed to serve the people? No. They allowed them to be kicked out of their homes and thrown to the curb. Just like this couple here in Ontario. Forced out of their homes and thrown to the curb at the age of 79 years old. Well, we got more damned electricity than we can use, and we're paying people to take it off our hands. And all we get is lip service from these so-called government bodies that are supposed to be serving the people. This is really getting pathetic. And I bring up that thing, I've said it many, many times, but it seems like a good time to say it again. When I was up at the reserve, and I was talking to that woman up there, and I asked her, because I was frustrated trying to talk to Canadians and Ontarians, trying to explain to them what the hell's coming at them. And they don't want to hear about it because they're still stupefied and docile. But when I asked that lady, a Native woman at the reserve, if she understood the plan for Whitey, meaning everyone who is not Native, if she understood the plan, and she just looked at me and nodded in the affirmative. And I said, how is it you get it so easy in Whitey, and I mean not just the white people, but everybody off the reservations, the general population, regardless of their race, creed, or color. Why is it that they can't get it through their thick skulls and you get it so easily? And she looked at me and she said, it's simple. We lived through it. Now it's your turn. And she couldn't have spoke truer words because the genocide is on, folks. It's on in spades, man. As Rockefeller said, something has to take the place of government. Business seems to be the obvious entity to do it. And business is going to crush your ass into the ground if you allow it to. All you got to do is look around. Where'd all the manufacturing jobs go? Your food is poison. Your water is poison. And they ain't got nothing to do with climate change, which is also a constructed fraud. The genocide is on. When we're reading stories in the news about the loveliness of assisted suicide, making it the thing you want to do, it's such a wonderful thing. And people are lining up to be suicided. The genocide is on. And we're too stupid to notice it. We've been so busy chasing the dream, if you will. We've become a nation, or not just a nation, the West in general have become nations that have the ability to look the other way when they see one of their people in trouble. Well, the government will look after them. And so they don't feel any responsibility. We're supposed to be looking out for each other, not looking away from each other, not pretending. You see, what happens when you look away like that, you don't want to deal with it because, well, it could happen to you. But you tell yourself, well, they must have done something wrong. They must have done something wrong. That 79-year-old couple that are auctioning off their house because they can't pay a hydro bill they don't owe, they must have done something wrong. And if they didn't do something wrong, the government would have come to their aid. I don't know how the hell people ever believe this nonsense, but they have and they still do. You know, anybody listening to this show, your job is to get out there and talk to people. We got to bust on this propaganda somehow. You know, he said Canada was able to settle the Syrian refugees across the country. Well, if you could afford to bring in these refugees and house them and pay their bills and pay their hydro bills and so on and so forth, how is it this 79-year-old couple that worked their whole lives on this land are being forced out of their house? That's called genocide. All these pride parades and that's genocide. Genocide is not necessarily, in fact, it's not really the killing off of a people. It is about the killing off of a society. The society that our forefathers built for us, and replacing it with something else. That's genocide. That's the real definition of genocide. And you are being genocided. And at some point, we're going to have to accept the reality that it was right in front of our freaking eyes. Anyways, back to drunk McCollum. However, he acknowledged there are limits to ability to dispense migrants, as once people become permanent residents, they have a constitutional right to move wherever they want. Foreign buyers, most of them from China, have been blamed by some for surging house prices in Metro Vancouver, BC. Recently introduced a 15% tax on foreign buyers, but McCollum said Chinese officials didn't bring up the levy during his visit. I was a little surprised. I thought it might be raised, but nobody raised it, and I didn't raise it with them, he said. McCollum said Chinese officials appeared open to his request for more application centers for Canadian visas. Currently, there are only 5 cities. He would like an increase to 10 or 15, says, I'm so pissed I don't know what I'm talking about, McCollum. They didn't say yes, but they certainly didn't say no, and they sounded positive, he said, adding it's possible an announcement could be made during Trudeau's visit. Because, you see, we want to flood the country with Chinese. We want to make this so there's so few of the original people left here in this country that nobody will ever recognize the place. The minister emphasized the need to ease restriction on Chinese tourists who make up the largest visitor market in the world and spend an average of US $750 a day when they come to Canada. Canada is aiming to expand its ties with China on trade, investment, and people, said McCollum. I wanted to go to China to get drunk. To enhance the flow of people, notably tourists, he said. Other ministers will go for trade or investment, and the Prime Minister will be there in just a few weeks on all of these things together. Now, there must be some sort of a pride parade going in China, because that seems to be the only thing that excites the Prime Minister is pride parades. He loves pride parades. And then after every parade, he goes on holidays till the next pride parade. Anyways, McCollum brushed aside a question on whether he tried to smooth the waters ahead of Trudeau's visit, as free trade talks between the countries appear to remain frosty because of Canada's human rights concerns. If you had any human rights concerns in this country, you would make sure that no one was hungry. You would make sure nobody's living on the streets. You would make sure that people haven't got their hydro cut off, and so on and so forth. And you're worried about the Chinese human rights? Now, you know that the immigration minister is a piss tank because he doesn't seem to notice any of these human rights problems. We got people boiling water all over the place. We got people can't feed themselves. People can't clothe themselves. People being thrown out of their homes. But he don't see any of that. Those aren't human rights violations. The Chinese have human rights violations, not us here in Canada. We don't have that. Then he finishes off with, I don't think he needs waters to be smooth. I think he will get a warm welcome from the Chinese government. No shit. A warm welcome from the Chinese. You're opening the floodgates to the richest landmass on the planet, bar none. Why would you have to smooth the waters with the Chinese? Now, this goes way, way back, okay? These are long-term planners. I mean, when Rockefeller got the one-child thing going in China, when Strong, which was really Rockefeller's main butt boy, over there in China, Power Corp, which trained a lot of our prime ministers in that, in China, so they've been over in China a long time. And now they're coming this way. They sucked all our industry out to China, told us it was good for us. We didn't need the dirty jobs. We're going to have clean computer jobs, and we'd work less hours than ever even be imagined. Most of the tech is sitting in India now. Most of that was shipped offshore, and because it's cheaper. And now we're sitting here basically having a bit of a problem because we don't manufacture anything, and anybody that doesn't manufacture what they need, they're kind of in trouble. So now we need new blood. not new European blood. We need new Chinese blood. We need new Syrian blood. We need new Sharia laws. We need to destroy our nations. And what have we got from the UN? What do they want? They want their world government, and they want what? What is it they want? They want the end of the nation state. Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized nations collapse? Isn't that our responsibility to help bring that about more strong? Something has to take the place of government, and business seems to be the obvious entity to do it. Rockefeller. And we allow this garbage to go on in our nations. We allow these so-called leaders to destroy our nations. We got to get over this idea that in 4 years you're going to vote these clowns out and get something better. Because they're all in on it. All of them. The only hope for us or anybody else is to get the people involved, to push it back. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night up around Algonquin Park, and I mentioned a story before about the A to A, the Adirondack to Algonquin, or vice versa, the corridor for the animals to go visit their relatives, I guess. But it's about pushing people off the land is what it's about. You think they give a damn about the animals? They don't give a damn about the animals. They care about pushing the program through any way they can, and this is one of the methods they use. But my buddy lives up around Algonquin Park, and he's one of the gentlemen that I talked into running in the 2010 election. And none of us got in 2010, but because a counselor was forced to leave, he eventually got in 3 years after the election, and then he was reelected in 2014. Now he, like we've been through tens of thousands of pages of documents, and what I keep telling people, we're going to make change, we've got to get a hold of these local councils. But he is so ticked off at what's going on. And he's working his tail off, and he's got to be cracking near 70 now. But he sounds like a young man. He's got the bull by the horns up there. And he's doing what needs to get done. And because he's on council, he gets a voice. And he gets printed. And his people are starting to rise. Because the people finally realize they got somebody on side. We just need more people in more councils with the same damned attitude. This is our nation. It does not belong to the UN. It does not belong to the political parties. It does not belong to your president or prime minister. Or your whatever. It just doesn't belong to any of those people. It belongs to you and I. These are our nations, not their nations, our nations. And we have got to start pushing back. This is getting way ahead of us. And the sad part is, each of these things that are coming at us now, me and all the other decent researchers, knew this was coming like 10 years ago. I knew, well, some of us know it's been going on a lot longer than that. I knew this was coming in the 70s. And here we are now in 2016. The enemy is well inside the gates now, but people don't recognize the enemy. If you go to my blog, which is CanadianTruths.wordpress.com, and just look what Cicero had to say, for crying out loud, in 42 BC. He understood it. He told us about it. How is it from 42 BC to 2016 we don't get it? The enemy is inside the gates. Well, they look like us. They talk like us. Exactly. Exactly. But they are the enemy. But people have a hard time recognizing they're the enemy. And that's the beauty of the plan. They're not bombing us like they do in the East or in the Mideast. They're taking us down from the inside with this idea of saving the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. There's something wrong with people's heads that they can get conned into this stuff so easily. It's absolutely ludicrous. Now they have a plan, another plan that is ongoing, where it's all about money. It's always about money. Everybody's got a price. Everybody will sell out for a price. We got to stop doing that. If you lose your nation, none of that stuff was worth anything. But they have a plan where they're bringing people in from overseas again into these small towns, and the government will pay out. So I own a construction company and nobody wants to take it over in the family. So I'm just going to do what a lot of small businesses do. When I'm done with it, I just close it down. Now the plan is that immigrants, the government will pay the immigrant, not pay the immigrant, but pay the owner of the business, and they're calling them all the time now. Hello, Mr. Jones. I understand you have a small plumbing contracting outfit in your local town.
Please leave a message.
And,
Thank you for calling.
Well, howdy, partner. Not sure if you're there. Probably not. You're probably outside or in parts. But I sent you along a few demand letters that...
okay, so anyway, sorry, but I just got a call coming in. But, the call kind of goes like this. Hello, Mr. Jones. I understand you had a small plumbing contractor or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. And do you have anyone that is going to purchase it from you? Someone in the family or something? No. I'm getting ready to retire, and I'm just going to shut it down and sell off the equipment. Well, that would be a shame, Mr. Jones. You know, your business, we see you've been in business there for 40 years, and an integral part of your community. And it would be a shame to see that name disappear, and your little company that's helped so many people over the years with the plumbing problems and that, to just disappear. We have a plan, and what we're willing to do, we're really willing to assess the value of your company, and we will purchase it on behalf of an immigrant. Now, even if he had someone, an apprentice that was working for him or something that wanted to take over the business, and he says, well, that's great, you're willing to buy the business of the business agent. That's great. I have an apprentice here that would love to continue the business, but unfortunately can't afford to take it over. So if you're willing to give me some money to keep the business running so they can be handed over to someone else, this sounds great. Well, I'm sorry, but it wouldn't apply to your apprentice. It is only for immigrants. Well, why can't you do it? Well, we can't do it. It's a special policy. So now the guy's got a problem. He wasn't expecting to get any money for this business when he shut it down. Now there's a check waving in front of his face if he will sell it to an immigrant, of which the government will pay the bill. Now he's got a dilemma on his hands. But a certain percentage of those people will say, well, what the hell? It's like free money because I hadn't planned on selling the thing, and what the hell? And they take the money. More immigrants. while our people continue to suffer. While the opportunities are taken away from our people and given to people that never were born here. And so the genocide continues. And anybody that thinks they're safe from what's coming and what's already taken place, I don't care how well off you think you are today, they got a bullet for you. They got a financial bullet waiting in the wings for you. They're gutting out the middle class. There will be no middle class. There will be those dependent on government and the extremely wealthy. And we will become, as they plan, third world nations. If we allow it. And I don't think we're going to allow it. I hope we're not going to allow it. You know, I mean, the thought of what's going on in our nations, when I look at the young kids, it makes me want to puke. When I look at the elderly who are being coerced into suicide in themselves, it makes me want to puke. When I see these things coming in here where they're getting special deals, they're not getting speeding tickets. They're told not to speed ticket these guys, even though they can't drive. They can't even speak English to write the test, but apparently they're getting their driver's licenses. They're getting all kinds of your money to support them, while our own people are struggling. That's wrong. And we got to put a stop to it. You know, you got an idea, let me know about it. If somebody you know's got an idea, let me know about it. If somebody's got a good idea, spread it through your neighborhood. Seems rather sickening that our local councils are sitting there basically in a vacuum. Nobody goes to council meetings. Everybody thinks the local council is of no importance at all. Well, you're being taken down by your local councils. They're the ones that are cutting the deals. They're the ones that are being sent to China. Okay? And that's where we win or lose. On our home turf. And we need to stand up as soon as possible. Anyways, I talked myself out of an hour. Hope it didn't bore anybody, but this is really starting to irritate the hell out of me. And hopefully we can roust some people and do what needs to get done. You know, we don't have to shoot anybody. I don't want to see that ever happen. If it does happen, that means we failed. We need to roll up our sleeves and we need to get to work in our neighborhoods. We need to get vocal. We need to inform the people, even when they don't want to hear about it. It's getting pretty easy now, though, because with people are being run out of their house because they can't afford their hydro bills, everybody's being pressured by one thing or another. So it's pretty easy to set up a conversation with someone that doesn't sound conspiratorial, even though it is a conspiracy. So you should be able to strike a conversation much easier than you could 5 years ago. Anyways, that's the end of the show. We'll be back Saturday night on, Revolution Radio, 10 to midnight, and then back on...
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line, lower class social slime. They don't
well, everybody have a great night.
Sick from water, sick from air, making money,
Get
they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one makes fun. Trees, laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives.
On the Tracks you can catch every Monday night and Friday night at 9 p.m.